arms from 3 years old. And when he was 5 years old, all the gods blessed him with otherworldly indicators. This means that he surpassed the maximum level of this world and can now do everything you have ever imagined. But before I spoil the fun, let's start the story. In the royal capital Reincarnated, Sylphid, one of the secluded representatives of the family and the elder sister of Keinvan, approached to greet her brother, but seeing that he was changing clothes, she became embarrassed and apologized. Kine smiled and replied that it was nothing, he had just changed. While the elder sister sweetly praised his appearance, Kine suddenly remembered that he was once Kazuashina. And he was reborn in this world, now living under the name Kine von Sylphid, the third son of Margrave Gracia. Rain finally revealed why she came. Because they hadn't seen each other for a long time, Kine was delayed. She invited him for tea and then for a walk in the garden. Actually, Kine was going to the guild. He apologized and promised that next time he would definitely fulfill her request. A maid greeted her in the corridor and asked in surprise why she was not with Kine. When she heard that he had gone to the guild, her face filled with astonishment. He went there again, and she added that she visits the guild every day, even when living in another residence. Since Kane remembered his past life at 3 years old, he secretly mastered magic. When he was baptized at 5 years old, the gods revealed why he was reincarnated. They asked him to develop this world. Finally, he received incredible blessings with absolutely crazy stats. But the only thing that stopped him was the age restriction. Adventurers are allowed only from 12 years old. He is already 12, and finally he can become the adventurer he always dreamed of being. He wants to travel to different countries and towns, even to those places that are not on the map. Can't wait to see more of this world. Still, there's one more problem. Because his stats are simply off the charts. They are completely beyond the scale and frankly cheating here. The longer he looks at them, the sillier and funnier they seem. Even the king and several influential people knew but kept silent because he could be considered a threat to the country. Magic and blessings usually do not exceed the 5th level, but he had the 10th. Because of this, he already got into trouble, so he really needs to be more cautious not to attract attention. His beautiful mother, Sarah von Sylphid, the second wife, noticed him when he was coming down the stairs and asked if he was going somewhere. Kane confirmed and told his mother he was going to the guild. Sarah noticed that he was a little pale and asked worriedly if he had overdone it. Although they have lived separately since he was made a baron at the age of 10, Kane's mother still notices everything, so he told her that he was fine and that today he would only stop by the guild briefly. Kane was always more responsible than most children, so Sarah couldn't help but worry. She told him, "Take care of yourself," and he replied, "Yes," adding that he would return soon. He passed through the market, reached the guild, and went inside. The receptionist with breasts just the right size greeted him warmly and noted that he had been coming every day lately. Kane agreed and quietly hoped that this time his request would be successful. Today the guild was crowded. A whole wave of novice adventurers had arrived. Therefore, all the cool requests were taken immediately, and then a man with a bottle in his hand bumped into him. Seeing that there was only a child in front of him, the man sharply told the G-rank novice not to just stand there dreaming, and Kane apologized. But in his soul he cursed himself. He was not G-rank but actually A-rank. And no wonder registration for adventures starts at 12 and everyone starts at G-rank. He was A-rank, so he carried a gold card. They said that for a completely new adventurer to have a rank was unheard of, but recently so many things had happened. When he was just registered, the registrar and the guild master did not believe that he had defeated goblins and that green lizard that even G-rank couldn't handle, but 2 people vouched for him, saying that Kane had saved the princess, the duke's daughter, at only 10 years old. Finally, everything became clear, and the guild master in the capital gave him a special promotion to rank. Getting involved in unnecessary problems is just extra trouble and harm for the guild. He glanced at the board and saw a training request to raise the level of that one. It was available only to those who had rank A and above, those who are skilled in both magic and physical combat. He always wanted to help train new guild members. So he decided to try and handed the note with the request to the receptionist. After reading it, it turned out to be instructions for training in the forest. She told the boy that she would contact the client and soon give him all the details. He was burning with excitement about this quest. The receptionist reminded him that the number of adventurers was increasing. He counted the numbers and saw that several of them suddenly disappeared. Kane assumes that they might have moved to another town or failed the quest. If so, it's not a big deal, but several of them disappeared right after agreeing to the request, so she was worried. Maybe she was just too worried and told the boy to be careful. His life was priceless. Before reincarnating, Kane was fascinated by light novel worlds. He thought that adventures in the world of swords and magic would be fun and easy, but in reality they are very dangerous and many people die during such journeys. Of course, the missing adventurers were frightening, but he could hardly wait for a new quest. He was curious whether the trainee was a novice from among the nobility or just a newly registered adventurer. But after a few days, when that day finally came, it suddenly turned out that it was Millie and Nina. When he was only 5, they were his private tutors for 3 years. At that time, he barely left the estate, so they took him outside the capital of the holdings and taught him everything in a row. The last time they saw each other was during the invasion in the monster forest, and then Kane was simply incredible. They cling tightly to him and notice that he is no longer a tiny sword 3 inches long. He has grown a bit. Kane doubted whether he was really fit to train them, since they were much more experienced adventurers than he was. They confirmed this by hugging him even closer and calling him sensei. I can say that the saying "life is like a wheel" is especially true here. Sometimes you are at the top, sometimes at the bottom. Well, if you know what I mean. So once again, meet our hero Kane von Silford. He is only 12 and he is already a novice adventurer. Gods adored him and he had absurdly powerful divine protection. He is an apostle of the gods who does not know what restraint is, and this adventurer is exactly like that. When they were about to start training, a man was hiding behind a tree and watching them closely. Training began with Millie rushing into an attack with a sword, but Kane effortlessly parried her attacks. Nina, meanwhile, used her magic. Kane easily dodged. After some time training, they said, "That's enough for today." Kane mercilessly pointed out their shortcomings. Millie reacted a bit slowly to attacks from the left, and Nina revealed a big vulnerability during her singing. He wondered if they could shorten her singing, but only Kane could use magic without any spells. Millie was wildly disappointed she couldn't even land a hit. Although Kane has divine blessing, he is just too strong, and she didn't understand why he was only rank A. It's absurd. By his strength he should be rank S, not some other. Moreover, since childhood he never uttered spells and even made them a magical bag of national treasure level. Millie waved goodbye, promising to try her best every day. Kane said he might be late tomorrow because he is still studying at school. He almost forgot about it. He was still just a 12-year-old boy, he still had to go to the academy. Despite this, he already has a title and leads his family. Within the walls of the Royal Academy, Elle and Silk call him by name again and again. Kane apologized for being so lost in thought and asked what it was about. Silk was embarrassed by one part of today's lecture, so she wanted to ask about it, while Tellus looked nervous and asked if he was okay. But he was fine, he was just thinking about whether to come up with a new game or entertainment. By the way, Tellus played that upside-down game that Kane invented together with his father, and it was so cool. Tellus is the princess of this country, Silk, really the daughter of the Duke. They both studied with him at the academy and were once his fiancés. When they were 10, they were suddenly attacked by a horde of orcs. Kane accidentally saved them, and this led to their engagement. In this world, polygamy is a common thing, and besides these 2 girls, he also has a 3rd fiancée. Silk wanted to try playing on his prototype as soon as he finished, and it agreed. The jealous princess slammed the table and awkwardly admitted that she also wanted to play with them. Of course, they invited both. But lately he really looks tired, so they advise not to pressure him and not to force him beyond his limits. After school, he put on his adventurer's costume and went to the guild. Standing in front of the quest board, he realized that after classes he took on quests, then always invented new inventions, but at the same time did not feel tired at all. He heard the company swearing loudly. One of theirs had run away. The girl explained that he was nowhere to be found. Lesha, the receptionist, apologized for making him wait. He handed her a package, a delivery for his regular guest, and he anxiously asked if something had happened. If he remembered that conversation about missing adventurers correctly, it seemed another one had disappeared, and the people who took the task with him were completely confused. Kane was sure if several people disappeared, the guild would have already received at least some news, and Lesha thought so too. And they told him to be careful, but he walked and thought about the travelers who disappeared without a trace. He saw Millie wounded in the alley, and she, seeing him, sighed with relief. It informed him that Nina had been taken. Kane healed her and found out what had happened. When Millie was late to the training ground, she saw Nina surrounded by a group that looked like bandits. Nina went ahead alone to meditate, and Millie regretted letting her go. The question was, why would they chase after Nina? Maybe because they were hunting for that magical bag he made for them. As it was an item of national treasure level, everyone would want to have one. Yet only a few people know about those bags. Suddenly, he remembered that recently several adventurers had disappeared. Kane couldn't get rid of the thought, could Nina be one of them? His suspicions made sense. It was not just theft. Millie felt that Nina was drawn into what was behind those disappearances. But why are they hunting adventurers specifically? Kane suspected nothing and blamed himself for not taking Lydia's warning seriously. Millie grabbed his hand and rubbed his shoulder with it. Turned out that these wounds were the work of Nina's magic. Nina knew that she would be there at that very time and already had a plan. She mumbles something that is a call. Although she did not say it out loud, Millie read her lips. They had been partners for many years. But he was late to dodge her attacks and eventually ended up wounded. Kane extended his hand and decisively said that they were going to save Nina. They set off into the forest, and upon seeing a bloodstain, Millie immediately decided that it was from Nina. Kane activated his tracking ability and realized that time had passed. They might no longer be nearby. He suggested following the trail and searching the surroundings. While they were snooping around, Millie was confused. Why did Nina shoot in her direction? Kane also thinks about this because he had noticed traces earlier, and concludes that Nina shot towards Millie to help her escape, or maybe there was another reason known only to Nina. He saw a pouch on the ground. She pressed the small bag, recognized it. It was the magical pouch that Kane gave her. They assume it is a clue from Nina. Because if anyone besides these three tries to carry it, their arm could be twisted. It is specially made to transfer the entire weight of its contents onto the bearer. The kidnapper did not know that Millie was there. If he had known, she would have been caught too. Therefore, Kane was sure. The kidnapper did not suspect he was being followed and headed exactly in the direction where the pouch was taken. They are already about to move in that direction and will use the searching ability to check all the details. About why the bandits resorted to kidnapping. Billy thought probably because Nina is an elf. The territory of Labert, where the elves live, was once known for its kidnappings. So it is not impossible, but they still have no idea whether all the missing adventurers were elves. They continued searching and stopped at the edge of a cliff. Kane activates his searching ability. He found out that 2 kilometers ahead there was a signal, noticed several people there and decided that it might be their hideout, grabbed it and flew there. Hoping that Nina is safe, inside the hut in the middle of the forest. Nina was tied up and the kidnapper was delighted they caught the elf this time and they could get a whole fortune for her. Besides her, they also captured several other people. The pervert touched her face and was already planning to taste her a little first. But his companion warned him, don't touch their things. Nina turned her head, trembling. She remembered the signal word that Millie gave, call, knew that Millie noticed the signal, wondered if she managed to find Kane again and worried about her injury. Meanwhile, 2 had already arrived and saw 2 bandits. Kane threw his water ball into action. It wrapped around them and grabbed them. And then he activates his searching ability. Inside there are about 14 people, and in the far corner a group of 6 has gathered. Kane feels Nina's magic in the air and is sure that she is one of them. He plans to create a distraction, but Millie wants to do it herself. She will lure the bandits, and Kane with his searching skill will save and heal them. Meanwhile, the bandits are actively discussing leaving the capital tonight. One of them shouts that the stables are on fire. Bandits rush after him to put out the fire. But one of them freezes, noticing how Kane put a finger to the captive's lips. Before he could warn the others, Kane swiftly silenced him and, thrown to the ground, this bandit won't get up for a long time. He has several broken bones. Kane untied Nina and sincerely apologized for making her wait. He told her that Millie had created a distraction ahead and ordered everyone to leave. Nina shouted to him, go to Millie, if we wait, she will be in danger. Because one of those guys was a former rank A adventurer, and Millie can't handle him alone. That's why she signals Millie so she can bring him and insists that he go now. Kane understood the situation and worried about Millie. And what about Millie? She was busy knocking out the hideous kidnappers. Worried whether Kane managed to save Nina. She asked why adventurers are kidnapped and learned the obvious. They are sold to people looking for cheap labor. They believed no one would care if a wandering adventurer suddenly disappeared, and women were considered useful only for other work. The bandits notice her sweet face and decide she came to rescue someone, but she will just be sold too. And will turn into a little toy. And the fools gathered to grab her. Billy closed her eyes. The training with Kane came alive in her memory. He will manage. She hit the bandits one by one and said that sparring with Kane was harder than this. He shuddered, felt something, and managed to dodge, but when she turned back, she was struck with a deadly kick and dropped to her knees. Kane ran over and anxiously shouted Milla's name. Bandits froze in surprise when they saw a child sneaking up, but they were shocked when Kane activated body enhancement and instantly appeared next to Millie. He healed her and said that Nina and the others were safe. He was going to deal with the rest, but Millie stubbornly decided to finish the job herself. She lunged forward with a sword, but the guy in the bandana deflected her attack. Millie put even more strength into it. And then she kicked that monster so hard that his butt scraped the floor. He asked for help, but his comrade just sighed, annoyed by the appearance of rats. Suddenly, a man in a hood appeared next to Millie and sharply swung a dagger. Kane reacted lightning fast and blocked him. By the time the man in the hood realized that this boy was not ordinary, Kane was already sure this was the very adventurer of rank A that Nina had talked about. To be precise, a former A-rank adventurer. When Nina appeared, the man in the hood clicked his tongue, but before throwing his dagger and rushing towards Nina while Kane deflects all the daggers. Nina is tense, trying to stay calm, quietly whispering a spell. The man in the hood was already about to make her his hostage. But Nina managed to release a fireball. In time, it burned the deformity of the man in the hood. The man cursed them for getting what he wanted and told Nina to die, and Kane felt the same as he did before reincarnation. He noticed that the man in the hood looked the same as the killer. Anger flared up in him, and he unconsciously created a powerful fireball. Nina rushed to stop him, but it was already too late. He could no longer hold it back, and eventually the entire forest was destroyed. Oh, he did it again. After that, they handed over the guild kidnappers, and the case of the adventurers being targeted became a guild matter, and later it turned out that a rather large organization was behind it all. But Kane was harshly reprimanded by the king and the people, and now he is under strict house arrest. First, when Millie and Nina visited him, he sincerely apologized for not having time to fulfill the request given to him. Both understood him and immediately explained why they came. After Nina thanked him for saving her, they simultaneously kissed him on the cheeks. Kane, blushing like my itchy scratched egg, remembered that it was the same when he was 8, but now he was 12. Millie agreed and measured, saying that now he is the owner of 5-inch swords. But for now, they plan to live a little in the capital, but as soon as a new quest appears, they will set off on the road again. Kane extended his hand and told her that if anything, he would gladly join them again. Looking at Kane's smiling face, Millie realized he was no longer the boy he was at 8 years old. And then she extended her hand to him, agreeing to his proposal. Only if his suspension is lifted. At the Royal Academy, Silk invited Kane to visit her and play Reversi, but our guy has after-school matters. The week dragged on since he was put on probation, and today he was finally given permission. He went into the forest and restored the entire natural order. So when it was done, he just needed to fix the shack, so he activated general repair, structure restoration, complete cleaning, and building purification. A few moments and everything was done. Although others could have used this hut or Kane could have destroyed it, he definitely knew it once belonged to someone. He sat down in the rocking chair and felt a strange, almost unreal calm. Since he was reborn, every day in this world was pure chaos. Such quiet and peaceful moments like this, he hardly had any. He fell asleep and seeing the silhouette of a girl, he reached out and called Lady Sylvia. When the girl asked who he was, he opened his eyes and asked who she was. This girl is Rachel, the mistress of this house. Later, he found himself at the table with her, sipping a cup of tea. When he told her what happened to the house and how he fixed everything, Rachel sincerely thanked him. Kane apologized for what he had done in her home and even fell asleep. Rachel usually lives in the royal capital, so this place had essentially stood empty for an eternity. It rained for several days in a row, and she was worried about possible leaks. Seeing that everything was clean, Rachel asked if he had cleaned it up. She sincerely thanked him for taking care of it and was sure that her father would be happy too. Her mother died when she was little, and her father raised her alone until a little over a year ago when he got sick. They were by no means a wealthy family, so the grave looked modest and unremarkable. When her father died, she was left alone and had to do everything to survive. From then on in the capital, she took any job to save up for a decent grave. She did not save a single penny. All her jobs pay terribly little, and living in the capital is incredibly expensive. She decided to gather a few stones herself and returned. After all stones in the mountains are free, Kane has one question. Suppose she manages to cut out the stone at all. How exactly does she plan to carry back a stone the size of a grave by herself? Embarrassed, Rachel covers her face with her hands because of her foolishness, and since she has already helped our guy so much, he offered her help. Honestly, he could just use creation magic and make it, but deep down he feels that it is wrong. They move forward and walking, ask her, does she have any idea where to look for those stones? She showed him the necklace that her mother left her and confessed her mother got it from her father when she was still young. It is a rare stone that shimmers differently depending on the angle. Her father was a hunter and found it in a cave when he slipped while chasing prey in the mountains. Her father could be strong, but illness defeated him. Seeing the sadness appear on her face, Kane called her by name. Rachel put a smile on her face again and continued speaking. Her mother kept that stone as the most precious treasure and said it was special. It grants wishes. Then Rachel was still a child, so she believed her mother. When her mother died, Rachel climbed that mountain to look for other stones and wished for her mother to come back to life. That time she couldn't even get down from the cliff, but fortunately her father found her and brought her home. That is why she knew where to find the stone they needed. Having said that, they set off upwards, climbing the mountain, encountering goblins on the way, and crossing a ladder. After this, Rachel looked incredibly exhausted, and Cain suggested she rest, but the girl refused. She was already convinced now they were close. Noticing that she was almost at the edge of the cliff, Cain warned her to be careful. It had been raining in recent days and the ground could be slippery, and she was about to reply that she knew. Suddenly he slipped and fell. She accepted her fate and apologized for dragging Cain along, so useless as she was, but was surprised when Cain rushed to save her. She froze in amazement. They were floating in the air. She shuddered when he told her that they were going to fly down. She shook her head and wondered if Cain was a natural heartbreaker. As they slowly landed, Cain told her to look at a specific place from where the cave was visible. They approached the cave but stopped before the entrance. Cain asked her to wait a minute. He would first go to scout the cave himself. He activated his search ability and instantly realized that a monster or something similar could be hiding here. He was the first to rush inside to deal with the monster. He thought Rachel might want to go with him, but he felt relieved that she did not. It would be easier for him alone. He unleashed a rain of icy icicles to the side, towards the spiders, freezing them. When he put the important part into his magic bag, he suddenly felt something strange. Next to the spiders, something was standing as if in line. Rachel ran in, calling his name because fans were chasing her. He realized that this place was a goblin lair, and then he prepared his vacuum blade. He ordered Rachel to lie down, and she literally fell face down on the ground. He threw the blade towards the enemies and controlled it. He arranged them all in an instant. He turned to Rachel and asked if she was okay. It seems the girl is fine, but he was truly scared, not expecting the monster to return at all. Suddenly the spider jumped on her, but she, surprisingly, slapped it with a stone. Having just finished off the last monster, Cain exclaimed in amazement. It turned out she was strong. Well, her father taught her that you have to use everything you have to survive. Strike first before you are hit. He looked at the stone in her hand and immediately recognized it was the same stone as in the pendant, so the source is actually located much deeper in the cave. He activated the light orb. It illuminated everything around. And he froze with amazement upon seeing the stones they had found. It had been so dark before that they didn't even notice, so he asked the girl if this was the place. Rachel apologized for her childish behavior and admitted that part of her still believed in that childhood legend because she still hoped to meet her father. And so she began picking up the pebbles. Cain tried to use his creative magic, even though it was his first time doing so. He launched creative magic woven with memory projection. Fog slowly enveloped the place. The silhouette of a man appeared. When Rachel, confused, asked if it was her father, Cain felt like he had failed. As he thought, without an image of her father it wouldn't work. A photo was impossible, but at least a portrait would have helped. He was surprised the projectile that when he created was actually her father. It turned out to be completely different from what he had imagined. Rachel laughed through tears now. She believed that Mom was right. She tried to talk to Dad and said that she missed him very much since he left, but now she is fine and calmly lives her days. The work is hard and she constantly fails, but she does her best, remembering what he taught her. Someday she wants to be like him and help people, so she begged him to watch over her from heaven. Together with Mom, she will be fine and is already doing great. After that, they instantly teleported to her house and she froze with amazement. Cain asked if she was sure she could manage on her own and offered to help the next day, but Rachel replied that everything would be fine and politely declined his offer. He thanks him and says that now it is her turn to give everything back. Let's erect a magnificent statue and thank Cain for the adventure. And with that, they said goodbye. Finally, Cain had a question about that phenomenon. He cannot get rid of the thought, could it be a miracle caused by Rachel's feelings? The butler asked if something was bothering him, but he replied that it was nothing, and he said they would visit his father and others tomorrow. The next day, Cain gave a gift to his two fiancées, and it seemed they liked it. After some time, Cain came to the guild, and there he found a personal request from Eden waiting for him. Guildmaster of the Adventurers Guild in the branch of the royal capital. It is necessary to find a medicinal herb that has been found only twice, once 200 years ago near the Western Lake and the second time 100 years ago in the Monster Forest. This is an extremely rare herb, and the alchemist, Eden's friend, desperately wants to get it. This was only a search request, not a gathering, and while Cain is just looking for it, that is quite enough. Honestly, it is more of an excuse to send Cain to the Western Lake. A request is a request, but he could not even think that Cain would actually find that herb. Still, he hoped that Cain would take care of that girl. About that girl, probably his third fiancée Tafana. Seeing him at the western lake, Tafana instantly threw herself into his arms. As I already said, she is his third fiancée, the daughter of the Duke from the Libert territory, captain of the Royal Knights in the Kingdom of Esfort. Tafana suddenly found free time, asked her brother, and was glad that everything worked out. Cain said there was no need to bother Eden, but Tafana reminded him that they were both busy and hardly saw each other, and their engagement was a secret. Moreover, if the Knight Captain and Baron Cain the hero were seen meeting in the middle of the city, a real scandal would erupt. Yet despite this, their goal was to act fully, and Cain did not understand what she meant by acting fully. But only when she drew her sword did he finally understand what she meant. It said that she was eagerly looking forward to the opportunity to train with him. Cain prepared his sword, a real sword. It activated body enhancement. While they clashed, Tafana was no longer surprised. She expected such speed from her beloved. Cain noticed that this time she hit harder than last time. Before crossing swords again, as befits her beloved, there was neither a single vulnerable spot nor an unnecessary movement. He wanted to say that now he was stronger than then. And it pleased her, yet it still hurt a little. He took on many missions and trained fiercely to catch up with him. Cain flipped in the air and he swung and lowered the sword down. Tafana managed to block the strike, but her sword was cut in half. Halfway and flew into the water. Soon Cain spoke with his master. Former king of Esfort and god creator Yuya Terra Hersua Esfort. His name is long, so let's just call him Yuya. Cain told him how he broke Tafana's sword and was very upset about it, although she said not to worry. He tried to fix it, but for some reason it just didn't work. It means the feelings associated with it are so strong, some things just can't be fixed easily. But what is his plan? Did he just come to be sad? Actually, Cain is on a guild mission looking for a rare herb and thinks Yuya might know something about it. After a long story, he turned to his master. Cain was still worried about Tafana. He knew he couldn't replace that old sword, but planned to give her a new one. He wanted to properly finish their meeting and see her smile again. The master smiled and patted him on the head. He was sincerely glad that Cain did not make the same choice as his father, and offered to help to forge a new sword for her. So for now, Cain will wander around here a bit and look around. But the real question is, where is he really now? Could it be just in the kingdom of Esfort? In fact, according to the translation, he is in Fabinili, a world where 1 year of stay equals 1 day in the real world. He trained there for about 5 years not long ago, so in the real world he missed only 5 days, and there is also a monster here that produces the highest purity mithril in its body, and Yuya wants Cain to extract some because a sword will be forged from it. He is almost sure that the grass his student was looking for also grows in this area. He calmed him down. Don't worry, with the power he has now, he will return in about 2 months. After that, Cain set off on the road and thought about where that thing he was looking for might be. He's been combing every corner for a month now. Still has not come across any monster that fits that description. If he delays, people might think he disappeared again for 5 days. He wondered if his master's memory was failing him after all. Believe it or not, Yuya has already lived 110,000 years. Suddenly he felt the ground shake. He flew up to understand what it was. Pay attention, the mountain is moving. And indeed it was barely moving, because what he saw turned out to be a giant turtle. Surrounding mountains are devouring, and everything around is slowly being eaten away. Suddenly he remembered the hint that the master gave him. It turned out that the monster he had to find was incredibly slow but extremely resilient. And with this, he was sure this was his target. If he managed to topple the turtle, he would get high-purity mithril, but there was one obvious problem: the monster turned out to be too tough, and just by looking at it, Cain already understood it would be difficult. He raised his hand to summon the fire sanctuary and the sanctuary of the saints, and he fired with all his might at the huge monster, creating a huge explosion. He thought he had successfully defeated it, but it only got a small crack, almost unharmed. He attacks with various types of magic and nothing happens. After 3 days, Cain was cursing and could not figure out how to extract the ore from inside the monster. Suddenly an idea flashed in his head. He needed to climb inside the turtle. He remembered how the master no longer gave him hints because he thought it would be boring if he told everything. He approached the turtle, and when it opened its mouth, to the mouth, and he flew inside. He could not believe that he had really climbed inside the turtle and was searching for ore there. From afar he noticed something brightly shining, and in an instant he was teleported to an incredibly beautiful place. The place was like a living ecosystem, and somehow everything here was already perfectly arranged. The sky shone so brightly that he wondered, could it be glowing from magic? He froze at what he saw and admitted that there was still so much in this world he did not know. As soon as he realized he had stepped on something, it stunned him. He wants to return and explore everything more thoroughly when he has time. He He turned his head and saw an angry caterpillar staring intently at him. He tried to apologize, but the monster lunged at him, so he had no other choice. He had to take out the sword from the magic box and strike the monster. He needs to find the ore before everything starts to annoy him even more. But when he turned around, the horde of caterpillars was already ready to pounce on him. To wrap this up quickly, he used hellish earth and, with an explosion, pushed the cute monster away. Suddenly, even more monsters appeared. He had no other choice. He started running, shouting that he really needed to get out of there and go home. This is a real mess. He must quickly find the ore, but problems keep piling up one after another. Should he pull them all out at once? No, that could cause even more problems. But what should he do? Ahead he noticed a steep cliff. He raised his head and activated his ability to fly, because he was going to search from above. Suddenly a bird grabbed him. Could he be mistaken for a caterpillar? Despite everything, Cain was still amazed that inside the turtle there were all sorts of creatures. He apologized to the bird before cutting it down. The scene changes, and suddenly he has companion creatures. Their names are Haku and Jin. He asked both to help him find the ore, and he stopped where he saw plants and wondered, could this be the grass Eden asked him about? Soon Cain knelt down, searching in vain for the ore, then rested on Haku's body and wondered how many days had passed since he entered the turtle's body. He involuntarily smiles when he remembers that invisible plants and unknown creatures hide inside the turtle's body. That place was strangely dim and softly glowing. He understands something. He sharply raised his eyes upward and noticing something. He flew into the air. If this is truly high-purity mithril, then the magical energy inside must be stunning. Finally, he found what he was looking for. He assumes that the magical energy of this paddle is what makes the inside of the turtle so bright, and then begins to gather a decent catch. Realizing that each of these crystals gives light to the redhead, Cain looks around but, before announcing that he will take only this one and leave. Meanwhile, Yuya secretly watched him with a smile, muttering that he just complicates everything too much. Cain used his teleportation magic too. Returning to his master's mansion, he greeted him. He irritably told his master that he never said it was a turtle, and Yuya just smiled, offered to brew him some coffee, and only then asked if he had found it. Yes, Cain replied affirmatively, showing him the crystal. But that was all he managed to bring back, so he asked his master if it would be enough. Yuya replied, yes, I will make a true masterpiece out of this. Cain was worried if his master put all his strength into it, he could create a world-class sword. Yuya assured him that he knew that was exactly why he needed Cain, to help make it happen. Placing the crystal right in the center of the magic circle, Yuya asked if Cain was ready. Cain did not expect this and thought everything would be like with the blacksmith, but Yuya only noted that blacksmithing would also work, but it takes time. In fact, it was almost the magic of creation. Yuya commanded him to pour in some mana and imagine the sword he wanted to create. The apprentice performs an imaginese that he draws out the sword he wants to forge for Tafana. They actually managed to create a beautiful sword. Although it was not on the level of the sword Yuya gave Cain, he adjusted it to the strength of the one who wields it. Then he tossed the sheath to the boy. Cain sincerely thanks his master and hopes that Tafano will like this gift. Well, Yuya could do no more. The rest was now on Cain's shoulders. Meanwhile, Tafana seemed she was deeply thoughtful, so the knight saw her sighs. They anxiously wondered if something was wrong. Cain came and greeted Dame, the deputy captain. Dame responded and sighed with relief. He was glad Cain had come because their captain had been depressed lately. He thought Cain might lift her spirits by sparring with her, but Cain just chuckled at his idea. Tafana instantly began to panic when Cain approached him and asked about his sudden visit. Cain just wanted to apologize for what happened last time and bring her a gift, but Tafana hurried to assure him it was not his fault, she was simply weak. She was painfully ashamed. She felt so miserable because she had also made him worry. To her surprise, Cain handed her a brand new sword. Perhaps this sword was different from her previous one, but he wanted her to try it. Tafana drew the sword and could not decide whether the strange flutter in her chest was because her beloved was nearby or because of the blade itself. And Cain unexpectedly admitted that he had only helped a little in forging the sword. Tafana almost exploded with shame. Cain thought she looked sad and gloomy, so he promised to arrange sparring sessions with her from time to time once she got used to it. Tafana blushed like a tomato and replied that she was truly happy. Suddenly the knight itself whispered to them that they were in trouble because there was a huge horde of monsters on the road. They went outside and before them spread a pack of lizards. Cain offered help, but Tafana refused. She said it was their mission and asked him to heal the wounded. She drew a sword from its sheath and made him understand that she would use it. She then sharply ordered the third platoon to first cover Lord Cain and the wounded, and the rest of the knights would go to destroy the monsters. While Cain was healing the wounded, he could not help but admire his beloved. She was not just a knight captain, but everything. He was also a swordswoman, brave, elegant, and beautiful. Stephana shouted to her comrade to step back and immediately swung her sword toward the enemy. Seeing the smile on her beloved's face, Stephana smiled, looking at him, and said, "We did it." At the guild of the royal capital, Eden sincerely thanks Cain and apologizes for everything. He told Cain that Stephana might not show it, but in reality she is very fragile. She also looks happy, and it is said that every night she takes care of the sword until late. Cain rejoiced upon hearing this, and then handed him what was requested. Eden held his breath. He could not believe his eyes. He truly completed the impossible mission, and Eden thanked him for the hard work. When Cain left, Eden suddenly realized why his sister chose him. Cain was an incredibly mysterious young man. He eagerly awaited what lay ahead. At the Royal Academy, Cain's two fiancées looked at him as if into another world, so he asked what was going on. Silk heard about what happened to Stephana recently, so Cain took the blame, saying it was he who broke everything, and seeing that both looked embarrassed, he wondered, could it be about the sword? Tellys heard that they went on a date by a beautiful lake, and then they rode together for a long time. Silk knew that Stephana was his fiancée, so it didn't matter to him, but she still couldn't get rid of her jealousy. She so wanted to quietly have tea with him and talk a little. On the other hand, Tellys also wants more sweet dates with him, realizing that he had been focused only on adventurous work all the time. Cain apologized to both of them and suggested going on a date during the next break. He was thinking about where to invite both of them on a date. Suddenly he bumps into Palma and apologizes. They sat on a bench and he apologized again for bumping into her. He was momentarily distracted. Palma could hardly believe that even he could have that happen, and thought that lately he was probably very busy. Cain told her that was not the case, and looking for ideas, asked about something beautiful. First, Palma was puzzled, but still answered that she really adored the view from the window. After the rain, the town sparkles so beautifully, and sometimes a rainbow even appears in the sky. It turned out to be exactly what she had guessed, but Cain still had to decide. Suddenly a flower petal falls on her hair, and when Cain picks it up, he suddenly remembered the place with flowers and a wonderful view. Seeing how he smiled out of the blue, Palma wondered if he was all right. Cain thanks her. A wonderful idea occurred to him. Days passed, and it seemed that our guy was up to something. His maids could not help but notice. Finally, the promised day arrived. And when the two of them arrived at his estate, they sincerely thanked him for the invitation. Cain couldn't hold back and praised their appearance, and headed to the backyard where he had already arranged everything. When they came there, both froze with admiration. The garden was incredibly beautiful. But it was not the beautiful thing he had talked about. They went inside, and there he revealed to them a field of pure white flowers. But that's not all yet. Cain awakened the memory of the flower. The place was illuminated, and several blue petals quietly fell to the ground. Now before them stretched a field of soft pale blue flowers, and they felt as if they were floating in the sky. Haku and Jin were also nearby, and that made them both even happier. While they were sitting, Silk asked if this field of flowers was special to him. He looked truly happy, and Cain agreed. He said that this was the very scene he had seen long ago when he was very small. The scent of these flowers not only brought back memories of childhood in this world, but also returned his childhood memories from his native world, where his father asked if this place was beautiful. Soon, while the maid was humming to herself, the butler quietly signaled her to be silent. Even before they reached the top, the maid smiled, seeing the children were sleeping and wondering what exactly Cain was dreaming. At Cain's guild, a request was brought to escort a noble person. He was specially sent to accompany the aristocrat. He set off to the magnificent noble estate to hear all the details. But he was only upset because the personal request came from his father, although he could have simply called his son. Rain told him that Cain was busy and thought it was the best way to hold her brother for a few days. Knowing it was only a few days of escort, Cain wondered if they were going somewhere. The father received an invitation from Sesta's friend and decided to send Sarah and Rain to Lindel. He would not go himself because problems had broken out in the territory of Greece. Worried, Cain asked if his father was all right. Finally, the father gently stroked his head and said that he was fine. Day came, and inside the carriage, Billy felt uneasy in the nobleman's carriage. Sarah asked her to calm down. After all, they are not strangers, since they once were Cain's tutors when he was little. Cain agreed with his mother and sister and added that his father had asked for it. Billy finally relaxed, but he could not understand why he was riding a horse. Well, then this time he was actually hired as an adventurer. He did not want the young ladies to get sunburned. Rain turned to her brother and asked if there was a large lake in Lindel, and Cain confirmed and added that the whole town was actually built around a really huge lake. Rain was glowing with joy. She really wanted to swim there together with her brother. Kane noticed someone ahead. Kane approached the old man and, learning that his cart had broken down, stood nearby. The boy offered to fix it. He activated material repair and immediately fixed it. The old man was full of gratitude and looked for a way to repay, but Kane insisted no need. The old man handed him a wooden horse, the very one he had carved long ago, as a token of thanks. Kane thanked him, and as the old man walked away, he threw a warning over his shoulder. If you go to Lindel, be careful, for with the storm returns the sorrow of the dead. The last words lingered in Kane's mind, and he could not understand what it meant. They arrived at Lindel, where a large and beautiful lake opened before them. In the city, Rain was delighted to see how life was bustling here. They headed to the manor to leave their things and leisurely walk into the city. After an exhausting day, Kane lay on the bed and could not fall asleep. He felt like a child on the night before a school trip. Honestly, he did not expect this trip, but it turned out to be quite pleasant. Suddenly, a melody sounded in his ears, and he ran outside to look for its source but found nothing. He changes into a traveler's clothes and goes out to find where it came from. He reached the lake, but the singing disappeared. He wondered, was it just imagination? Suddenly, a girl appeared next to him. Morning came, and the Rain eagerly invited her brother to swim with her. Sarah warned them not to go too far, and Rain agreed. She almost drowned because she couldn't swim. Big Bro energetically activates the creation spell to make a bubble. That's it, now the little sister can swim. Kane looked at the two and couldn't understand why they didn't join, and Millie wondered if that was really allowed since they were supposed to be their guardians. Kane reassured them, everything is fine. Sesta prepared the whole beach for them. In general, they look simply incredible together. Just in case, let them keep their magical pouches with them. Two gladly accepted the offer and headed to the water. A sudden gust of wind. Sarah's straw hat flew into the air, but the rain caught it and returned it to Sarah. Kane remembered the girl from last night. And recalling what happened, knowing that the girl was not alive, he asked if something unresolved kept her there. The girl froze for just a moment, looking at him, then shook her head. And he asked if the singing was coming from her. The girl sang a beautiful, sad song. Suddenly he felt something. He looked at the girl, she pointed to the lake. Suddenly a strong wind broke out and the girl simply disappeared. When he was thinking about that girl, Rain heard and immediately asked if he was currently interested in someone. Kane denied it. And it turned out that it was actually a ghost. He later told them what happened, and the younger sister laughed, teasing her brother for also attracting a ghost girl. Mother Sarah asked what his plan is, and replies that if the girl stays there because of regrets that trouble her, he will help him. After some time, Kane no longer hoped that everything would go smoothly. He was glad that now, thanks to the request, they can act officially. He went to the lake with Millie and Nina and froze halfway. Millie wondered if this was the same place the ghost talked about. Kane replied that he asked Sister to allow him to review the town's records. Apparently, at this time of year, storms often hit Lindel and the damage is very serious. Nina asked, and what does this ghost have to do with it? Kane did not know for sure, but something was bothering him. Opposite the town was a small village, and he found a record about a ferry that once sank in a storm while heading there. It happened the day after the festival in the town. Since then, the ferry has not operated in this season. Millie thought that he meant that ghost girl as one of the victims of that event. Kane replied that they still know nothing about her, neither her name nor anything else, so he decided that the best thing is to start checking everything possible. The biggest question is how they are supposed to search the entire lake at all. Judging by the records, the ferry drowned somewhere here. Further searching will have to be done by themselves. His proposal is impossible, because even if they dived, they could do little. Kane activated the blessing of water and poured it on them. With this, they will be able to move freely underwater for several hours and even talk while they are there. Knowing that he has an answer for everything, Millie promised to remain silent from now on. They dived underwater and began to search. Later, they could no longer find it at all. Kane suddenly realized searching for a shipwreck at the bottom of this lake that sank decades ago is too much even for him. The magic was already starting to fade, so he suggested returning and resting a bit. As if suddenly the flow of water changed. Everything changed and Kane could not breathe. And when he finally opened his eyes, he found himself inside the cave, the two of them. He sighed with relief. They were only unconscious, and he used his healing magic to cure them. And the two of them woke up. He apologized for not noticing it earlier, but Millie said she was fine and asked where they were. Kane realized that they had ended up in a cave somewhere under the lake. Kane moved forward and suddenly realized that if they were swept away somewhere, then the ferry they were looking for would be there too. He released a glowing orb from his palms and saw the drowned ferry. And Na asked what exactly they needed to look for. For now, they would just take with them everything that looked even a little important. When they started the search, Kane couldn't get rid of the thought, why did this girl appear at all and why did she choose him? and the girl suddenly appeared as if out of nowhere. He wondered if her desire was hidden right here. He began to move aside the scattered firewood, searching for exactly what she wanted. Suddenly the fairy shuddered. He ran outside to find out what was happening there, only to discover that two girls were captured by legendary tentacles. Seeing the giant octopus, Cain wondered, could this cave be its lair? He realized that everything washed here by the water becomes food for this octopus. He said he would release them both, but he suddenly got distracted when a small octopus latched onto his legs. He was thrown like that, but even so he got a slap from their mother. He still calmly smiled, lowering his guard, and then rushed to cut the tent. Tentacles that will pull both out to freedom. Having learned that the monster is regenerating, he realized if this continues, the entire cave could collapse. He decisively ordered the two to face the small monsters face to face. They understood that they were not made for prolonged battle. He decided to finish off the octopus mother with a single shot. With one single blow, the giant octopus fell. The little monsters fled in terror, and when they found what they came for, he suggested returning to the city. That day the ground in the Lindel area slightly trembled. A small earthquake was recorded. And of course he was thoroughly scolded for it afterwards. The founding festival is just around the corner. The streets are packed. Millie is amazed. While they cheerfully examined each stall, Nina wondered if Cain had managed to find what he was looking for. But about Cain, he had already found Mr. Morris. He is the man he was looking for. So he handed him the wooden horse from Morna's house, and the old man was surprised where he got it. Cain simply replied that Morna's feelings led him to the horse. Morris admitted that long ago, when he was about the same age as Cain, he and Morna molded this figurine together. He knew about the storm that sank the ferry, but still whispered to himself that she would somehow survive. She lived in the village on the other side of the lake and came to the city only from time to time. They were more acquaintances than anything else, but he loved her so much that he still cannot erase her smile from his memory, and when he remembers it, he feels embarrassed. Cain tried to sing the same song she sang and asked the old man if he knew anything about her. The old man confirmed this, explaining that it was a song he learned from a traveling merchant and then taught to Morna. She could never perform it correctly, always getting confused, after which he sang it. He was stunned when he saw Morna appear right above him. Seeing the tears in his eyes, Morna told him, "Don't cry." She was always tormented by the fact that she never learned the song to the end, but when she heard Morris's singing, everything came back, both the song itself and her own name. She gently strokes the old man's face. She thanked him. Now she can finally move on. She turned to Cain and pleaded with him to escort her. Cain agreed and uttered the original magic. Thus she said goodbye to both, thanked them, and wished that Morris would live on for her sake. At the estate, he told his mother and sister about what had happened. About that wooden horse that he was given. He put it exactly where it was supposed to be. On the eve of the founding festival, Cain was asked to visit the Cesta Adventurers Guild to their Oriella, a historian who lives in this city. He begs him to join her and together chase the romance of history. She wants them to go scout some ancient ruins that opened after a landslide during last month's storm. She admitted that they still haven't gotten inside anywhere, because as soon as they tried, her companions already collapsed right at the threshold. Once it seemed like some magic settled on the gates near the entrance. She hired several groups of adventurers, but all were defeated. In one of them, someone even lost an arm. So she continued consulting with the Adventurers Guild, and they introduced her to Cain. She took his hand and pleaded for his help. Finding it interesting, Cain agreed to take the job. Oriella sincerely thanked him and said they would set out tomorrow. At the manor, after he learned about his mission the day before. During the festival celebrating the founding, Ryan couldn't hold back tears of disappointment. When the day came, Oriella anxiously awaited the chance to enter the ruin and find out what was hidden there. He threw it to visually demonstrate the deadly danger the entrance posed. It turned out to be much more lethal than they imagined, and everyone realized this is not a barrier to keep people out, but a trap designed to kill those who penetrate. Because of this, no one wants to take on this job anymore. Cain steps forward and touches the barrier, destroying it. He indifferently said that the barrier disappeared, and Oriella froze in shock. He said that the barrier might have been damaged during the recent earthquake and urged to move forward. And they boldly step inside. The woman glows with excitement upon seeing the treasure chest. The chest almost killed her when a huge stone fell. Then she saw ancient figurines, and just as she was about to approach, she almost died from a blade. Cain tried to calm her and insisted, "At least let me check the trap first." After so many traps, they finally reach a dead end, but inside emptiness. Cain examines the room and feels something is wrong here. As soon as the foot steps into the magic circle, suddenly the vine came to life and rushed to grab the three. And he tried to pull them to freedom. He felt that these plants were somehow not hostile and asked himself if they were trying to do something. We decided to play along and see what would happen. When the lianas released them, a new place emerges before the eyes. A cute little golem approached him. But when he turned his head, there already towered giant golems. He looks at them and feels no evil intent from them. He glanced at the others and quietly wondered if they cared about this garden. He followed a few of them and eventually found himself. I found myself in a place where someone important rests. Oriella woke up, saw the golem, and screamed in fear. Cain heard her voice and instantly rushed to check her. Seeing that she was swinging the sword and driving away the golems, he asked her to calm down. Unfortunately, she did manage to hit a golem. Driven by instinct, immediately fought back. After that, he rushed to save her. Oriella begged him to smash those creatures. While he was trying to explain, the golem suddenly launched an attack, but he did manage to avoid it. He ordered her to hide for now and come up with a plan. If he started fighting here, he might destroy the entire garden. He prepared for battle. Then Millie and Nina appeared. They warned him not to fight the golems, because they saved them both. Behind them walked these prisoners, and the golems covered them when those men tried to attack. Cain feels that the golems guard this place, and again that strange feeling arises, which had not left him since they stepped into the ruin. Oriella warned him the golem is about to attack, but he had just apologized to her for not doing it earlier and immediately uttered a spell to calm her mind. It informed her that the golems would do nothing to them. He told everyone that right here sleeps someone extremely dear to the creator of the ruins and that the golems guard this person, and he considers the ruin itself built to defend against everything it considers a threat. In other words, if Oriella had not fallen into such a panic, none of those traps would have been triggered. The place was so beautiful that it seemed to him, the one who created it seemed to want someone to come here from time to time. As long as they did not intend to spoil the ruin, they could quite calmly enter inside. When Oriella finally agreed to leave this place, Cain suggested occasionally bringing flowers and at the same time exploring the surroundings a bit. By the way, these prisoners are exactly those adventurers whom Oriella had hired earlier, so she intends to hand them over to the guild. Cain's team is returning. They are hurrying to join the bright celebrations of today's festival. The place was so lively that Mina was glad they got here, but in the end, they did not get any real results. As soon as they started talking about the results, Oriella suddenly jumps up. She picked up and showed them the thing she found. She was glowing with excitement. She really wanted to find out what it actually was. Cain offers to borrow it, promising to return it later. He suspects what is inside. He thinks if his intuition does not fail him, it will be just perfect for today. When night came, they approached the beach and gathered as many people as they could. When they were wondering where Cain was, they noticed a boat from afar. Suddenly the sky lit up with fireworks. It left them both surprised. Was it a spell or an explosion? Rain could not believe his eyes. Cain was standing in the middle of the sea holding something that was glowing, and asked his mother to look at this beautiful sky. Sarah did as she was told and held her breath at the fireworks, comparing them to flowers blooming in the night sky. It seems the explosions caused a real commotion in all the neighboring villages, and of course, afterwards he was scolded again quite severely. In the kingdom, the king stands by the window and looks at the peace prevailing around. He dreams that such days would last, but a messenger brought rumors. Supposedly last night, a mysterious, powerful spell destroyed the southern forest. Recognizing Cain, the king put his palm to his face, told the envoy that everything was fine, and assured her that this was not a hostile attack because he knew only one person could have done this. The messenger added that earlier today, during a game of reversey led by Lady Tellus and Lady Silk, several palace vases were broken. The king ordered her to make sure no one was injured, but was surprised when he heard about another report. The message was about Tafana, who returned from the expedition this morning. The expenses for the expedition turned out to be quite large, but she was just about to train with Cain, so after handing over the expense report, she would leave the rest to him. She added that the messenger from the theocracy of Marineford would arrive in a month, as agreed. According to the king who returned from the expedition, monsters in the surrounding lands are beginning to go mad. Since there was a risk of mob madness, he ordered to raise the alert level. When the messenger left, he realized that if this continued, these people are exactly those destined to carry the future of the kingdom on their shoulders, yet he still cannot help but think, how truly free are they in spirit. Cain would probably handle the monster, but the real problem is diplomacy, he thought, pondering how to deal with it. Suddenly an idea flashed in his head, and he quickly wrote to someone. Cain and Tafana were training with swords when Tellus and Silk appeared. Cain wondered in surprise if something had happened that made Tellus pout, and asked if she needed a special reason to visit her fiancé. When Tafana noticed that Tellys's and Cain's faces had turned red, Tellys admitted that she had a reason to meet him today. It was a letter from her father, and he wanted them to read it together. In a month, the king will hold a reception in honor of the ambassador from the Marineford theocracy, so he wants them to help entertain this guest at that time. Jane tells Silk and Captain Tafana will be. They will undergo special training in the castle for a month, so they will have to prepare. Inside the castle, a toasted bald egg. The egg stood before them. They concluded that it was combat training. When the royal knights appeared behind, Kane could not help but ask himself, was this a real combat training? To his surprise, each of them was handed an apron. They would learn to cook, and here their rank and strength did not matter, only kitchen skills and sincere hospitality were important. Bald Egg clapped his hand in front of. Before starting the lesson, after that they move on to practical exercises. Kane just stared at the textbook, realizing that it was difficult. He asked if he could use magic, but the Bald Egg instantly waved it off. Magic was forbidden because hospitality is sincerity. It must be done with one's own hands. With that, they put all their effort into cooking as best as they could. But unfortunately, all their results turned out to be in vain. Finally, they managed to cook a truly delicious dish, to win the approval of the head chef. And the great day has come. Four held their breath watching the crowd. Meanwhile, the king wondered, had the cooking lessons instilled in them the spirit of hospitality and even more? The princess politely introduced herself, the third princess Testia Terra Esfort, and added that it was a great honor for them that they came all the way from distant lands. Silk introduced herself as Silk von Santana and, confessing that they were still inexperienced, earnestly asked them to enjoy the local dishes they had prepared. Meanwhile, Kane and Tafana work as waiters. Watching how these four behaved, the king rejoiced. It seemed they truly understood what hospitality was. People were happy and sincerely praised them. A messenger immediately ran up and, out of breath, reported that a mad giant was approaching from the western forest. She instantly called for everyone to evacuate. Remembering how much effort they had put into this dish, Kane promised not to let anything spoil it. He rushed to the main gates, and seeing that colossus, he unleashed his magic and was instantly defeated. The moment, and everyone froze at what they saw. But the king did not. He was afraid of how the people would react. He looked at the crowd and was surprised to see that they were all delighted. They also thought it was an amazing spectacle, a wonderful array of local dishes, finished with a whole baked giant, something they would never see in a theocracy. Kane was worried that he had messed up again. The king whispered to him, he thinks the boy is full of surprises, he might have even planned this. Kane awkwardly confirms this. Ella stands up for him and says this is exactly how Kane should be. People began to eat and joyfully enjoyed the taste of the food. So Kane and the rest successfully completed their tasks. In the grand headquarters of the guild of the royal capital, he approached Letitia and, a little upset, admitted that he was hungry. This morning he was so busy that he forgot to eat. Now it seems to him that any food he tastes will be incredibly delicious. Letitia wondered why food always tastes so good after work. And they asked, why did you come to the guild and not to the dining hall if you are hungry? He thought, I'll take one task on the way back and then go eat. Letitia handed him the task and the weapon. He paid only 5 silver coins for guarding a young girl. Thinking that it was interesting, he took the task and left the guild. She was carefully looking for the beast can girl in a maid costume, the very one named Myra. The escort mission began. She was glowing with joy, looking at so many things she had never seen before. He peeked into the flower shop and then into the dress shop, behind a tray with food. Jane understands that this is her first assignment, that's why they are so nervous, but he knew that the city was not that dangerous. Suddenly a barrel right towards her. Kane handled it easily. When a log fell from above, she didn't even realize that Kane saved her. He tries to calm it down, and when she finds herself in the crowd, he quietly weaves spells and people discreetly turn and go another way. He thought that she was already approaching the house. 3 bandits were already about to grab her. They were shocked when one of them fell to the ground. At the same time, someone else kissed the ground, and this angered the guy in the bandana. He shouted fiercely for that person to show himself and fight him fairly. Kane appeared and pressed a dagger to his neck. The boy asked who he was and immediately pushed his sword. But he was instantly knocked out. His deed had been mentioned earlier. Kane, hearing this, was stunned to realize that she had noticed him even earlier. When they entered the house, she happily greeted her mother. She greeted her and inquired about the city. Myra enthusiastically replied that it was very fun there. And this big brother Boom and Bam rushed to save her. Mother asked if he was Kane and requested him to remove his mask. Kane apologized for being noticed, but Mother reassured him everything was fine. Myra insisted on going alone and she wanted her wish to be respected. As soon as the mother and daughter thanked him, he decided to leave. Hunger was bothering him. Amira stopped him and invited him to join them at the table. Mama was not sure if he would like it, but if he doesn't mind, he can join them. Cain agreed. As soon as I finish one more small task, I will take advantage of your offer. He drove 3 bandits into the guild, returning to the mother and daughter to sit with them and eat. As I thought, food after work is really the tastiest. After some time he woke up. He marked the calendar and saw only a week left. Outside he was reading books using magic. Sylvia sincerely rejoiced seeing him. Butler Colin asked if everything was all right, but she was just worried Cain looked much more serious than usual. She is sure that the king entrusted him with something very important, and she wants to help so much if only she could. Colin noticed that Cain was like that from morning till night and began to worry if something was bothering him. As his butler, he must support him. He inquired if something had happened and was ready to help and listen. Cain stood up and with a trembling voice said that he had a serious problem and did not know what to do at all. He was racking his brains, not knowing which gift would be best for the woman. In about a month, Sylvia will have a birthday. Every year, without exception, he gives her a gift. She is always cheerful, but it still seems that something is missing. She always takes care of him, so he wants to truly repay her. Hearing this, Colin quietly muttered that he is a wonderful host. Cain does the same every year on his birthday. He imagines a wonderful birthday gift for the woman. Hints that if it is from Cain, he is sure Sylvia will sincerely rejoice at anything. Now he understands he only added trouble to his boss. He sincerely hopes that this time he will not overdo it. While the boy was racking his brains about which gift would be best, Sylvia came closer and called him by name. She awkwardly apologized for scaring him and gently advised him to drink some tea. Too much thinking was not good for him. On the way she noticed flowers. He wondered if he remembered it and simply asked her, why? He replied that for now she would keep it as her little memory. Night fell and he lay down in his bed, thinking about the words she had said earlier. And Colin opened the door to tell him about tomorrow's schedule. He got up joyful. He finally knew what to give Sylvia. When he was little, on her birthday, he gave her a flower from the garden, simple and ordinary, one that could be found anywhere, but she shone with happiness so much that he thought he must really love flowers. He decided to give her something even more beautiful and special, a truly amazing flower. He was flipping through a book and suddenly found a melting flower between the pages. It is a lonely flower that grows in the depths of the harsh northern mountains. They say the language of flowers is a heart that melts. Their appearance softens the heart as if it simply melts. The truth is that he could have simply created it with magic, but that would not have been sincere, so he ordered Colin to cancel his entire schedule from tomorrow until Sylvia's birthday. He briefly set off for the northern mountains. Colin reminded him that tomorrow was the first day of his intensive reverse e-training camp with the king, but he considered this more important and promised to apologize to the king properly later. With that, he set off on the road. 2 days had already passed since he stepped inside the mountain. But he did not find a single one. Instead, he came across a bear and a pack of wolves. But he easily dealt with them and set off on the road again, while Sylvia was watering the flowers with a smile. And suddenly he saw one. He looks at it with a smile, then turns back. That time on Sylvia's birthday, he was glad he made it on time. He noticed that Sylvia was looking at him, so he rummaged in his bag and took out a melting flower. He discovered with horror that it had disappeared. Moreover, the melting flower can only be picked once. It will melt during the day, so it is an incredibly rare thing. This is very bad. He did not know what to do now. He stared at the flower lying on the ground. Sylvia anxiously asked what had happened because his clothes were tattered. He simply replied that he had stumbled and asked if today was her birthday. When she confirmed it, he handed her the flower picked from the ground and explained that he wanted to prepare something much more amazing, but it didn't work out. He quickly apologized and asked if the flower he had picked was the same one she cared for. He wiped her tears and explained that she was simply happy because she truly loved that flower. He always generously spoiled her with luxurious gifts, but she was already happy simply because he remembered her birthday. This flower is the first special flower he had ever given her. And at that moment he realized what matters is not what you give. But it is not the gift itself that matters, but why you give it, he said with a smile. Happy birthday. I thank her for everything she does. Sylvia thanked him and said that this flower made her birthday the best in her life. Nearby, the butler Colin was glad that everything worked out. By the way, this flower is Granny's. The language of flowers means thank you always. Afana and Cain were walking through the city. It is striking, everyone was insanely busy. In Esfort, they arrange a loud week-long celebration to welcome the return of the dead. According to legend, once every 10 years their souls come back to their families. He wondered where he had heard something like this before. He saw a pumpkin and some fruits on the side and suddenly remembered that it was now autumn. Tefana was embarrassed, so he asked if she knew what was hidden under the pumpkin. Tefana called it a fairy horse, a horse for the dead. They rush here riding a horse made of extra carrots and send back riding a pumpkin giant, so they return slowly and safely. Cain smiled. He understood that the idea was one and the same. They keep walking and he looks around. He quietly wonders if his family will return. Tufana told him that at night they launch lanterns into the sky so that everyone understands the season has come. When she was little, she saw them. They were so beautiful that she completely forgot about sword training and just froze, staring. He noticed a boy on the side who lingered his gaze on the lantern's side heavily and turned away. He approached and asked what was wrong with him. Strong pain was visible on the boy's face, but the boy replied that it was nothing. Realizing that this boy was from the slums, he introduced himself and asked his name. When Roy named himself, Cain said that if Roy said what was bothering him, he might be able to help. Roy hesitated. He was just a boy, but Tufana reassured the boy. Cain is reliable, and even a simple conversation with him can help. Roy explained that some bandits stole the money he had saved for a lantern, and that he just let them beat him could do nothing. Now he won't be able to meet his dad and mom when they return. Buying a lantern will be easy, but Cain wants to do something that will truly help Roy. Suddenly an idea flashed in his head, and he muttered that it has been so hard here lately. If someone helps him, he might be able to repay enough so that they could buy themselves a lantern as a reward. Tufana was initially embarrassed, but when she understood, she murmured that the night watch also lacks people, and they would really benefit from having one more person. Roy raised his hand and asked if he could also do such work. Both lit up with smiles confirming this. After the bath, the butler quietly and attentively helped him dress. After his training and serving together with Sylvia, he hung the fabric outside and he takes up training together with the knights. Nights with Tufana and Cain watching from the side. After so much effort, he finally received a decent wage. Excitedly ran to buy a lantern. Two watched him from behind. Tufana understood that helping Roy was good, but wondered if it would have been simpler if they had just given money right away. Cain agreed, but he explained that he wants the boy to feel confident when three villains block his way. He insists that the money is his. Cain pointed at Roy and told her that he was no longer the same as before. One of the boys hit him, but Roy dodged at the last moment and the blow hit his comrade. Enraged, the boy hit him again with his fist. He dodged lightning fast and the boy's blow hit the pig directly. Pig fainted and fell on his two comrades. Tufana realized that instead of just giving Roy a fish, Cain taught him to fish on his own. She shone with happiness, already expecting this from her husband. Cain smiled, thinking about how to make this country even better. If he does so, he will be able to look his father and mother in the eyes with his head held high. Finally, Roy managed to buy a lantern, and he joyfully showed it to them. He went out into the open field and helped him light it. Seeing Cain's gloomy face, Tufana mutters that now she has a wonderful fiancé. She must feel this celebration from the heart, so that later she can tell her ancestors about it. After Roy released his lantern, Cain raised his gaze to the sky. He constantly wondered if his parents were also watching this from somewhere up there. He told them that he was doing everything he could hear and begged them to watch over him. After some time, Cain ran into his teachers in the guild and told them that he was going to hunt that giant beast everyone was talking about. Billy was sure he would handle it in a moment. He agreed. He remembered how the king said, "You can defeat the behemoth, but you must be careful not to burn down the entire forest again." Suddenly, their attention was drawn to a quarrel at one of the tables. Gio doubted whether they really needed swords, and Ray only confirmed, "Last time, the magical attack finished everything off, and swords are not that versatile anyway." Gio stood up and reminded her that he was the one who exhausted it so she could finish it off. She had only stood aside and watched until then. Billy and Nina stood between them to calm them down. While Gio doubted whether she even understood his feelings since they were both swordsmen, Ray told Minnie that he was talking complete nonsense. Billy smiled and agreed with Gio, saying that usually she was the one who exhausted the monsters. Nina's eyes sharpened as if to say that they always worked together, healing, covering, and doing everything else. Mages do not just stand aside. If swordsmen rush forward, mages also have to be on alert. Ray agreed and added that swordsmen really think that fighting in the front row immediately makes them cool. Guild froze while swordsmen and mages continued to argue. Cain silently watched them, feeling that things were going badly. Lydia told him that this really happens, the old debate, what is better, magic or swords? He asked if she would stop them, but she knew, when it comes to this, all they can do is watch. Which after the arguments that adventurers left the guild and each went their own way. Outside, Millie was sitting when a person came. He thought it was Nina, but in fact it was Cain. Millie did not know what to do, because she finally blurted out what she should never have said. But she still firmly believes it is true. You must not lose. When the decisive moment comes, this sword must protect Nina, so it must be stronger than her. Meanwhile, Nina was also sulking when he approached her. She realized that as a rear guard she could not support Millie, so she had to be stronger than any swordsman. Kane awkwardly chuckled. He suddenly realized that his teachers were the same. They sincerely care about each other, but their gears are slightly out of sync. If someone just apologizes, it will probably drag on and later leave a scar. Remembering the saying, after the rain the earth hardens, Lesha suggested gathering all the adventurers in the guild and finally deciding who among them is stronger. She sighed, realizing that she would have to clean up when the guild's property gets broken. Kane thinks that arranging a fight to find out who is stronger is a great idea, but he feels it can go even further. He glanced at the quest, and as soon as he saw the request to tame that giant, an idea struck him. He gathered all the adventurers together. He advised them to just throw everything they had at each other. To find out who was stronger, swordsmen or mages, they would have to fight. The crowd, pleased with this idea, burst into applause. Kane reminded them that this was only a training fight, no injuries or serious harm could occur, and when they agreed, he sneaked away and hid in the bushes. As the fight was about to begin, suddenly they heard a roar. Suddenly a huge monster appeared before them. Gio shouted for everyone to run, but Nina and Millie did not move. They resolutely decided to fight the monster at their usual pace. While Millie attacked with the sword, Nina supported her, unleashing her magic on the monster. And the other adventurers rushed into the fight. They fought with all their might until they defeated the monster. And it finally dawned on them that they had defeated the huge monster. They looked at each other with a smile. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Kane appeared and lectured them that both swords and magic are equally important in an adventure. Thus the two remembered again how to act in battle, and apologized to each other. The other adventurers did the same. This made Kane smile, remembering that the giant was his task. Millie wondered if he was behind it. He tried to deny it, but Nina clearly saw he was manipulating the plush monster like a puppet, and it looked very suspicious. Because that giant monster they fought turned out to be too simple. The truth is that after he toppled the Colossus, he used its body to control it. Meanwhile, the king hid his face in his hands upon hearing the report that the forest had turned to ashes again. While he was practicing with the sword, Sylvia approached him and handed over a letter from the academy. In honor of the academy's anniversary, he was invited to be the school's representative at the main event. The academy will hold a grand festival covering the entire royal capital. Students from all schools will gather in the capital and compete in teams in 3 trials to find out which school is the best. Kane noticed when their academy celebrated its anniversary, they were too confident because they had him. He really is incredible, but honestly, it would be better if his power did not become too well known, and if he was chosen, he must give his all. At first, Sylvia eagerly began packing his things, but upon learning that the festival was only a week away, she became embarrassed and stopped, ashamed to get ahead of herself. Finally, the day of the festival in honor of the founding arrived. The king announces that the main event begins here, and he expects each of them to give their all representing their school. Meanwhile, students from other academies mocked the representative of the capital. As soon as he saw that they were just children, they believed that the Royal Capital Academy is nothing special, and announced that the prize exemption from tuition fees would go to them. On the other hand, Kane felt as if they were radiating a murderous intent towards him. When Tefana came and apologized for being late, students from other academies immediately noticed she was completely unlike the others, and her aura was simply striking. Tefana proudly said that she was the only one of his fiancés who was ultimately left aside, and she herself made sure they forced her into this. King cleared his throat and only then announced the start of the events. First was the sword dance. This played to Tefana's advantage because it was her specialty. Kane declared that, as always, he would give his all in sword practice. The students exchanged surprised glances. What was he talking about? Had he come here and didn't even know what a sword dance was? A dance for 2 with swords is not something you learn overnight. It requires precise synchronization and skillful handling of heavy blades. They began to swing their swords. They blocked each other's strikes. This spectacle left the crowd and other participants frozen in shock. Silk repeated the mocking students' words, "You can't learn this in one night," and announced that no one here had any idea how many times these two clashed blades daily. Their swords had practically become parts of their bodies. They do not measure movements by time they read each other's intentions, and such understanding at a higher level makes his fiancée and us too envious. When the sword dance ended, both were giggling and realized that Kane and Tiffany's performance was like a real battle, and Kane explained that it was just their usual training and hoped everything was fine. The next event was a dance, and the other students were sure. For the dance, only a little practice was needed. They would manage, they could not lose because the hope of everyone rested on them. Cain froze, looking at them with an empty gaze. Tellus asked if something was wrong, and he only replied, "No, nothing." Hoping that their training would yield results, if it was Tellus and Cain, Silk was confident that they would dance just as wonderfully as in rehearsals. Nervously, when the music started playing, the participants began to dance. Nervous, the princess suddenly stepped on his feet. And this made others think that it was the end for them. Embarrassed, he turned to us and apologized for being nervous and not dancing properly. He knelt smiling. He asked if she remembered that field of flowers where they danced during rehearsal. Then she was glowing with life, and he realized how much he liked dancing with her when she was like that. He extended his hand to her and assured that the place did not matter, they just needed to enjoy the dance together. Tellus took his hand and began to dance gracefully. Silk admitted that their dance was truly on a completely different level. Cain's leadership was simply incredible, and Tellus's support for him was like a beautiful flower. As if they had been one from the very beginning, and Tafana somehow felt a little jealous. When the dance event came to an end, they were given a short break before the next event. The final challenge turned out to be a real maze of puzzles, so Cain relied on Silk. After all, she was studying commerce. However, she was nowhere to be found. He ordered Tafana to watch over the princess while he went to look for Silk. He saw her, she was sitting by a round pond, and asked if she was feeling unwell. Silk shook her head and apologized for the trouble. She was scared that she would not be able to match him perfectly. Tafana was incredibly cool and strong. Tellus was so kind, and her dance was simply enchanting, and everyone else was also captivated. She just thought that she had nothing of the sort. Cain asks if she remembers the moment when we all gathered after the announcement of this event. It was she who told Tiffany to be herself, as always, and it was she who taught Tellus to start with strengthening the body, the foundation of proper dance. She quietly explained to Tiffany what sword dancing is just in case, and it was she who stepped back so that Tellus and Cain would have more time for training. And that day she got so absorbed in solving puzzles that she hardly slept. He thinks that she has only nobility, quietly and persistently working in the shadows. Harry glanced. Silk smiled sweetly at him and thanked him for watching over her. Until they finished this. From behind, two women saw how perfectly they synchronized and envied them. When all the events ended, the king announced that Cain's team won, and also the other three teams. All teams performed wonderfully, so it could not be said that any was better than the others. Therefore, he will use his right as king and organizer and declare everyone winners, freeing them from paying for tuition. He sincerely believes, just standing here as a representative of the school is already a wonderful act that contributes to the growth of the nation, and those words originally belonged to Cain and others and became the perfect reason for him to go for it. Although Cain's team truly had the greatest influence, they were disqualified because the knight captain was among the students. Ifana touches her forehead and apologizes for forgetting those details. Students laugh ahead. Before apologizing for what they said earlier, they were actually just thrilled by Cain's team's performance. Cain assured them that everything is fine because everyone tries and does all they can. Next, if next year they have the founding festival again, he will invite them to compete once more. So the festival in honor of the founding continued. They looked, and the joyful celebration lasted late into the night. Meanwhile, Palma and Cain looked completely dejected. He really said he would create a new product to replace reverse, but now it is clear this is not easy at all. In a world where there was almost no entertainment, he pondered what would be worth offering. He could create a gaming console using the magic of creation, but that would mean imposing his values on everyone. Palma wonders, isn't he busy with other duties and studies? She often sees people turning to him with various requests. Cain said it's okay, such free time is also a way to rest. In general, he likes talking to her so much. She never even dreamed it would turn out this way before. When they first met, she had no idea they would ever talk so casually. She asks him if he remembers their first meeting. He stood up to recreate this fast anew, and she never managed to find the way back. But he helped her look for her father. Cain was amazed. She remembered everything so vividly and considered herself the true main heroine. The palm tree has no idea what a main heroine is, but she enjoys trying on another role so much. After that conversation, an idea came to his mind. When he came to the king, he passionately said that he wanted to build a theater where they could stage that play. King approved it, and immediately they began to build the theater. Cain gathered the actors and passionately explained that he wanted them to perform the play. And they explained the essence of the role-playing game. He gently assured them, do not be afraid, everything will be fine, because he had already checked their potential. If they work together, they will create an incredible show. By the way, he invited one more person. But he is a bit shy. The invitation was accepted by Yudia in a wolf costume because he had free time and was interested in his idea. With that, the preparation continued. Until the day of the performance came. Alma is clearly nervous. He felt embarrassed seeing that there were so many people here. Finally, the play begins. Everyone is wildly interested because they are seeing the play for the first time and the hall is full. Kane encourages the actors to give them the best Little Red Riding Hood they have ever seen. Actors took their places. Palma was still nervous, her words flew out of her head. Kane cannot reproach her for her, this is the first performance before such a huge audience. But after all these rehearsals, he wants everyone to see what kind of actress she is. He appeared on stage and raised his hand to cause an explosion. It turned into fireworks and the spectacle amazed everyone. And they clapped their hands. He confidently assured her, everything will be fine, everyone is on her side. And he also saw how much effort she put into the work. He called each one by name. The role-playing game begins with. Suddenly, a Little Red Riding Hood appears on stage. Mom strictly ordered her to go to grandmother, who lives deep in the forest, to bring her food because grandmother was sick, and this happened after the wolf found out where she was going. It came to grandmother's house to tie up grandmother and lie in her bed. Pretending to be grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood was confused when she saw her grandmother, who now looked like a wolf. Mr. Wolf lunged at her, but before he could harm her, the hunter fired and stopped the wolf. After they untied grandmother, she quickly hugged her granddaughter. Little Red Riding Hood looks at Mr. Wolf, who finally she came to her senses. She took off the hood and she extended her hands, inviting him to friendship, because she believed that skin color does not matter. Mr. Wolf stood up with tearful eyes and hugged her. So ends the tale of Little Red Riding Hood. The actors bowed their heads and thanked the crowd, who were satisfied with their performance, while he was thinking about what to perform next. And then a letter came from the king. The king himself recorded how much the stage construction costs, the workers' wages, and the ceiling repair which he broke during the fireworks. It seems they will not put on another show anytime soon. A lot of time has passed since he entered Yuya's house, and he wondered what he wanted from him. Yuya, busy working on the ground with a hoe, noticed him and sincerely thanked him for coming. They went inside. Yuya prepared some tea, and they noticed that he was just silently staring into the cup. Or did he prefer coffee? Kane objected, saying tea would be just fine. He noticed the coffee maker. He thinks of spreading this in the capital itself. When asked what he thought about his power, Kane replied that it allows him to help many people. Yuya smiled at his answer and asked if he had ever wondered whether his determination was born from that power. Kane agreed that it could be part of it. But he doesn't think that having power is somehow connected to saving someone. Hearing what he wanted to hear, Yuya smiled at him and put a bracelet on him. This is a sealing bracelet that suppresses the rampaging monster Fabianil. It seals the abilities of the one who wears it, and he wants Kane to wear it and feel an ordinary life, because when he understands the ordinary, the extraordinary will truly seem special. By the way, even the Fabianil monster won't be able to break this bracelet. It will stay on the wrist for a whole week until the time runs out. He returned to the capital, and hunger rumbled in his stomach. He tried to use magic to teleport, but nothing happened. He tried again, and Tafana noticed him. Asking what he was doing, Kane scratched the back of his head. As soon as he noticed the bracelet, he realized magic no longer worked. Think if he doesn't know magic at all, then he's completely useless, right? Tafana admitted that this sometimes happened to her too. When she swings a sword every day, there are moments when she just zones out. Even if he lost magic, she believed he would still remain himself and nothing would change, so there was no need to make such a grimace. Kane thanked her and then continued to go to visit the fruit shop, buy some fruits, and eat them right away. He went to the guild, but nothing there suited what he had become now. Suddenly his teachers appeared. Seeing on the board a quest about a high-rank monster trampling the field, he quickly took on that quest. Let him burst in with all his strength, even if he wants to refuse. Without magic there are fewer options, which means that all this time he actually had a sea of options. From now on, he will see things differently. He cannot tell the teachers that he currently has no magic. He does not want them to worry. And to ask if he still hasn't tracked the target. He understands that he usually starts a search to find the target, but now he has no idea where it will appear from. Suddenly a giant monster appears from behind and attacks lightning fast. They manage to dodge. He did not blame Kane. He looked completely out of sorts, and besides, they themselves chose this task, so they will manage on their own. While the two of them were fighting the monster, it occurred to him that if he had magic he could do anything. Countless options would open before him, but without magic he has nothing, and all he can do is be under protection. Suddenly, he remembered the conversation with Yuya. He realized even without powers he still had options. Magic only expands them, and the decision of what to do is his alone. And the monster charges straight at Nina. He rushes forward to save her. He looks at his hands and knows his power is made to save people. He recalled that even the Fabinial monster cannot break him. So he decided to surpass them. With such determination, he managed to break the bracelet and he launched a massive attack on the monster and knocked it down. After some time, Yuya could not believe it that he really broke the bracelet. He picked it up and asked if now he understands why he was given that power. Cain again decisively answers, his power is meant to save people. He liked the answer, and Yuya asked if he wanted to take a look at the magic of creation to make a coffee maker and similar things. Cain refuses. He can't relax when he imagines how the king will see that scorched wasteland, and he will be scolded again for overdoing it. And Cain found himself face to face with the demon king named Set. Demon throws a ball of flame. He easily dodges, steps sideways, and swings his sword. It suddenly appeared behind the boy to launch an attack. Cain was so fast that Suddenly he was behind Set and with one move knocked the demon down. Cain reached out and thanked Set for the sparring. Since arriving in Dorontal, he had almost no chance to train with anyone. Set told him it was all right, addressing him as Cain-sama. Before leaving, he ordered Set to do whatever he wanted today. Set loudly called his butler Dalmatia and asks what he thinks of him now. Since Dalmatia was his subordinate, he couldn't answer honestly and simply said he agreed. But ask him to pretend that he does not hear the Demon King's grumbling, at least a little. This human Cain is special, very strong and wise. Set dreams of being the same, but right now he is just a training partner and is tormented by the question of what his subordinates and the people of his native land really think of him. Dalmatia advises him not to think too much, he will just exhaust himself. But if it weighs on him so much, Dalmatia will always come to his aid. Just one word, when Cain called Set, he appeared instantly. When Cain went out briefly to patrol the outskirts, he liked to leave Set so that he could play with Haku and Jin. So he will be the one who takes care of the pets. Even though his dignity as the Demon King was trampled into dust. Yet he politely accepted the task and asked himself how it happened. There was no choice left. He was still playing with Cain's animals. And when the boy returned, he greeted him with respect. He said that Cain's favorite was completely fascinated by this frisbee, and when they found out that the boy had endowed it with magic, it began to fly incredibly well. He wondered if he could really create a wide variety of things almost without limits, when the boy said he could make a bunch of different stuff. He wondered if Cain could create something stronger than him. Cain didn't even think about it, and after thinking a little, he decided to try. He summoned several magic circles and created a strategic weapon against Cain, the Arc Golem. Death smiled slyly, even before he touched the golem, to name it Nornir and make it his summoned creature. After the golem solemnly swore allegiance to him, he spread his dark, stinking armpit too. He builds a tall tower and challenges the boy to defeat Nornir and himself. The boy must prove that he is their master, so they will wait on the upper floor of this dungeon. Cain anxiously asked himself why he had taken on doing something like this. But when he realized he could act to the fullest, he was filled with joy. Pama was teleported to the dungeon. Meanwhile, Tafana stood and wondered, why did she suddenly teleport here? Her gaze fell on the child. She learned that she was on her way to share delicious bread she had baked herself with her older brother, but instead ended up here. Tafana hoped that her brother was not here either. But when she heard that her older brother was Cain, she apologized and told the child that her future husband had probably done something wrong again. She was already used to it. He always overdid it in various ways. Because the place seemed dangerous, she walked alongside the child. On the upper floor, while Seth was intently watching Nornir, Dalmatia thought that this time he had done a truly brave deed. After he was appointed caretaker of the animals, Seth believes that at least for this he deserves. With this dungeon and the power of Nornir, he will defeat Cain and when that happens, reclaim the throne of the Demon King. Although in the end they still rely on Cain's power, the golem of this story arc. Yet to create such a monster and stand against such a mighty enemy, this is exactly the back they once saw, the very Demon King they want to follow. Seth could not hide his surprise. The king remained unshaken even in such a situation. The king trusted Cain's power so much because they had known each other for a long time. Otherwise, he would never have given him his most precious daughter. Dalmatia suggested, "Shall we play reverse?" Cain was having a great time walking. "I give all my strength destroying monsters, but I realized that climbing up is quite a hassle." He tore down the walls above. After the victory over several monsters, Tiffings finally reached the boss's room. But he almost died when the Nornirs attacked. Fortunately, Seth ordered to stop it. After all, their target was Cain. He had no idea that someone would teleport nearby and manage to get all the way here. Learning that Tafina was the captain of the knights, it was hard to hide the surprise. The child was sure if she and Cain got married, they would have nothing to fear and the doors of fear would close. Riding the riding Jin, Cain tore down all the ceilings on the wall as they began to fly upwards. until they reached the boss's room. He was filled with surprise. Familiar faces appeared before him and explained that he had checked the area to make sure it would not explode where the people were standing. Suddenly the Norner attacked, but he managed to dodge. Skillfully dodging, he realized the golem he created is impressively fast. He easily defeated it. One strike and it's done. He threw that fireball at him, but he managed to quickly duck before releasing several fireballs. He said, easily deflecting them, and they happily fight each other. Doesn't even come close to regaining consciousness before throwing it at the little girl. Although Cain knew he wouldn't make it in time, that cast magic to destroy it. Use this and shield the child from the blow. What was seen instantly caused anxiety for the child. Cain definitely knew that he just wanted to release all the power and admitted he felt the same. Seth had a great time and is now sure that his master is really strong. Probably he will already be able to tell his people at home that he serves Cain. He apologized for putting him through such a trial, and Cain suggested next time just to talk properly with him. And he reached out his hand. After that, everyone admitted that they had a crazy good time and headed back. They suddenly realized that they had gone too far. They finally decided to clean up the consequences. The chapters end at 27. Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoy this manga. Have a good day.